Welcome to my channel. Hi, everyone. Today, I'm gonna be reading from a subreddit. So let's jump into it. This happened about 2 months ago in the city where I live. I was driving home at around 4 a.m. after finishing my night shift at the hospital. I drive an old pickup truck that has no back seats or back doors. Only access to the back of the truck is through the tailgate. I had just finished work and had driven straight home without stopping for anything or anyone. As I approached my neighborhood, I saw a young girl standing by the side of the road with her thumb out. She looked like she was about 16. I slowed down to ask if she needed help, and when I rolled down my window, she asked me if I could give her a ride. I asked her where to, and she said she just needed a ride to the next town over. That sounded strange to me, because it would have been well past midnight by the time she got there, and I knew that nobody traveled between towns at that hour unless they had a car. But being the nice guy that I am, I agreed to take her. I unlocked the tailgate and started to get out of my truck so that she could climb in the back. When I did, I noticed a man sitting in the bushes across the street. He seemed to be taking notes and making sketches on a pad of paper while staring directly at us. I thought it was weird, but I just shrugged it off and went about my business. I didn't want to keep the girl waiting. As I was helping her with her backpack, she told me her name was Lucy. She was quiet throughout the ride and kept to herself. I wasn't bothered by this and just put on some music and drove on. After about 10 minutes, I asked her again where she wanted to go, to which she replied, "Thanks for the ride, Mr. Driver. I just wanted to get away from everything." Confused, I asked her what she meant, but she remained silent and stared out the window. I continued to drive in silence until we passed a gas station and a motel. At that point, Lucy said, "Here's where I get off," and started to open the tailgate. I rolled down the back window to make it easier for her, and she started to climb out. As she was getting out, she turned to me, smiled and thanked me again for the ride. That was when I noticed something very disturbing. She didn't have a face. Instead of a face, there was a black hole that seemed to absorb all the light around it. It reminded me of those pictures people take of empty spaces that turn out to be portals to other dimensions or something. I freaked out and slammed on the brakes, causing Lucy to fall back into the truck bed. I demanded that she show me her face, and she did, revealing a horrifying grin filled with sharp, pointed teeth. Her eyes were completely black, too. They didn't have pupils or whites, just pure, unadulterated black. Panicked, I hit the accelerator and swerved onto the shoulder of the road. Looking back, I saw her standing in the truck bed, holding onto the side of the tailgate for her dear life. Her face was twisted in rage as she screamed at me, "You can't escape me, driver. I need you to take me home." Terrified, I sped away. For the next few minutes, I looked in my rearview mirror every few seconds, expecting to see Lucy climbing out of the truck bed and chasing after me. I finally slowed down when I reached my street. As I turned onto my road, I looked back again to see if she was still following me. And that's when I saw something even more terrifying than her in my rearview mirror. The man who I saw sitting in the bushes earlier was now standing in the middle of the road directly in front of my truck. I slammed on the brakes and skidded to a halt in front of him. He looked up at me with wide eyes and froze when he saw me. Startled by his sudden appearance, I stepped out of my truck to confront him. But before I could say a word, he ran off. I called the police and reported what had happened, but they didn't seem to believe me. I told them about the girl who climbed into the back of my truck and the man who I saw in the bushes, but they just kept asking me if I had seen any other cars on the road or if I had hit the man who ran off. When I told them no, they said it must have been a dream. Confused and scared, I hung up the phone. Shaking, I went back into my house and tried to forget about the strange events that had occurred. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, though, so I checked all my windows and locked all my doors before going to bed. In the morning, I went to my backyard to get some fresh air and maybe calm down a bit. That's when I found something that made my blood run cold. Sitting on the concrete slab where my barbecue grill is supposed to be was a worn leather suitcase. I hadn't seen it there the evening before, so I cautiously approached it and slowly lifted it up. The moment that suitcase left the ground, I knew what it was. Without thinking twice, I threw it back down and ran back inside. I called the police again and told them about the suitcase. When they arrived, they opened it up and found a woman's clothing, including a pair of little girl's shoes. One of the shoes had a tag on it that read Lucy. My blood ran cold as I realized that the girl who had climbed into the back of my truck was never really there at all. The police searched the area but found no trace of her, and soon they stopped looking entirely. It was like she had vanished into thin air. A year passes and last week I am watching the news and they were talking about how a drunk driver crashed into a ditch on that same road where I picked up the girl. The driver died on impact, and they've only now been able to identify her because her parents had recently moved to the area. They also said that she was a runaway who had been missing for almost 2 years. To this day, I still don't understand what happened that night. All I know is that if you ever see a hitchhiker with a black backpack, don't pick them up. And that is the end of the story. Do you guys know anyone who's ever picked up a hitchhiker? Let me know your thoughts. I kinda do. There was one time I think I may have picked up a hitchhiker. I was living in Utah at the time, and I was going from Provo to Salt Lake City. And I remember seeing someone walking along the side of the road, and I felt bad, because it is like really far and it is kind of dangerous to walk along that road. So I pulled over and I asked if they wanted a ride, and they said yes. And then they got in the car and they had like a backpack and everything. But they were just super quiet and I dropped them off at their destination. And I am pretty sure there was a hitchhiker, because I've never picked anyone up who was just walking along the road and wanted a ride. But anyways, thank you so much for listening to the story today. If you liked it, please leave a like. If you love this sort of content, consider following. I'd love to have you here. And I'll see you next time. Bye.